Welcome back to Mirror Readings. I'm Molly, and we're talking about the purpose of our relationships. Our purpose node connects our genius activation sequence and our Venus sequence, which is our love sequence. Sequence. So this one's a two-parter because we got to talk about our purpose in love. I'm just going to read a little bit from the book here. Every relationship in your life brings you the opportunity to find a deeper relationship to your own true purpose. Whew! That's a sentence to contemplate. We tend to see the purpose of our relationships as a means to bring more happiness into our lives, and this is a worthwhile and very understandable sentiment. However, sometimes we need to go deeper into ourselves to find the diamonds, and relationships can be an invitation to do that, whether we like it or not, by the way. Ironically, it is when relationships become the most challenging that we have the greatest opportunity to transform the shadow pattern that is preventing the quality of a connection from emerging in our lives. Let's go. I know I've explained this in like hella other videos, but I just want to remind you that the lines are how we move from the shadow to the gift frequency. And we want to do that because shadows block our manifestations, gifts magnetize them. So let's start with line 1, which is the anchor or loner. So line 1s in shadow frequency are driven by the need to feel secure, but they have to learn that from relationships, and yet they're so turned in on themselves emotionally that they've actually lost sense of how they feel because they've turned all their feeling inward. They need connection in order to be able to feel their feelings again, stand up for themselves, etc. By listening to the needs of others and learning to stand up for themselves, these line 1s can become the anchor of any relationship and be able to hold down core stability even in the midst of turbulent times. It says, you will only bend as far as your boundaries allow, but you will allow others to find their inner confidence in relationship through your strength and groundedness. Let's go, line 1s, you can do it. All right, line 2s, the natural and the accuser. Yikes. So for line 2s to transmute their shadows and get to the gifts, they have to become aware of the effect that they have on others. So in shadow, they can bury their heads in their sand and just like be in complete denial of themselves, of what's happening in the relationship, anything. And in a reactive state, they can respond with very angry outbursts and just generally be pretty volatile. But perhaps more than any other line, the second line tends to get caught up in the charge of emotional drama and become blinded by it. So watch for that, second lines. And the great challenge for the second line shadow is to remember your natural sense of flow in emotional situations and to allow others the space to share their feelings without being overwhelmed. So the whole deal with the gene key shadows and gifts is that it's two sides of the same coin. So they can be the accuser or they can be the natural. Once they become aware of their effect on others, they start to access that gift frequency, and then their easygoing nature becomes contagious and everyone can relax. Third lines. If you've watched any of my other videos about the lines, you know that line 3s are wired for change. So how do we stay in a relationship if we're wired for change? Well, the natural gift of the third line is a sense of humor. So in a shadow state, line 3s will use a sense of humor to like deflect away from them or diffuse emotional situations without actually having to deal with them. But in the gift frequency, they can laugh at themselves. So learning to laugh at yourself if you're a line 3 is essential, and being able to accept the feelings of others and not feel like you have to fix the feelings of others. Relationships are such a rich part of the human experience. And once the third line has overcome its fear of commitment, right, its fear of being locked in one place because line 3s are wired for change, it learns a great deal about life and people. And the ability to enjoy the uncertainty of life, which is the line 3 specialty, brings a deep sense of inner trust in the individual and to the relationship. All right, line 4 is the politician or the nurturer. In that shadow state of being the politician, they're pretty cut off from their emotions and they're just trying to manage perception of the situation, their own and others, by the way. The fourth line has the ability to use its considerable social gifts to conceal its own inner fear or hurt. In shadow, the fourth line will always want to reject others before they can be rejected. And to access the gift frequency of being nurturing, they have to be gentle with themselves and be able to connect deeply with others. And this can take practice. But at their highest potential, their generous spirit and their self-acceptance will become contagious and transmitted to others. They do this by first accepting that they have been shut off emotionally for some period of time, then it's no deliberate fault of their own. That's a trauma response. Freeze. Cut yourself off emotionally so you don't have to feel the horrors. But when they learn to ask for gentle support in here and in their relationships, these line 4s can easily move to the gift frequency. Line 5s, you guys are so special always. Y'all need some deep self-awareness to break the pattern in relationships of either being the victim or victimizing someone else. So line 5 is the victim and the leader, and they can be lost in self-pity or creating a web of illusions to like sell a story about being the victim or having a like justified reason to victimize whoever they're in a relationship with. But if the fifth line is able to break through using clarity, fifth lines, they can see the rest of infinity, so to speak. And so they have the ability to create clarity and thus become very strong leaders in any relationship. So if they're able to use that clarity to help themselves and others, they can really stabilize any connection. When the fifth line awakens, the first thing it wants to do is free others from being codependent victims and to help them authentically, emotionally become independent adults. The magnetic power of the voice of an awakened fifth line can draw many people in for help. And this is the fifth line operating at its best. We need you guys. Please do the work. Fifth lines are so powerful and we need leaders like this. And finally, line 6, the judge or the visionary. The sixth line carries a sense of detachment. Yeah, that's me. That can set it apart from all the other lines and make you isolate in relationships. So acting like I'm disinterested, being aloof, that's my control drama, right? I can be quietly judgy and then I never have to be vulnerable. So that has a way of disempowering others through the intellect and excluding ourselves through the judgment of everything and everyone. It's me. Hi. I'm the problem, but I'm working on it. In order to blast through this shadow and access the gift frequency, I have to trust in life. We have to trust in life and trust in others, all right? One of the trickiest aspects of being a line 6 in our relationship purpose is not always knowing how we feel in the moment. So it's important for us to let people know that we're in relationships with that we don't necessarily know how we feel yet, and it might take a few minutes, hours, days, weeks to figure that out. Annoying, but it's just the truth. Your feelings provide such a depth of insight that you have to let go of your habit of going straight into your mind, right? We have to kind of drop down into our heart and into our gut to know how we're feeling sometime, because the mind just wants to tell us a story that makes us look good, honestly. The sixth line gift can only emerge with patience. So we have to be patient with ourselves and patient with our partners. Working on it. I'm Molly. Thanks for watching my channel. Please subscribe. I would like it. And you get 15% off readings if you want. If you want to get a reading from me, please visit my website, mirrorreadings.com. And if you have questions, email me, mirrorreadings@gmail.com.